Conscious collaboration brings together entrepreneurs, changemakers, and thought leaders. We aim to highlight the people that embody the idea of aligned mind, body, and business. Each week, we share, discuss, and learn from the various experiences and ideas of our guest experts. Through our discovery, we find a path to an aligned mind, body, and business.
What up, guys? This is Emily.
And I'm Lisa, and we are the Conscious Collaboration. How you doing, Emily?
I am good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm really excited to introduce to you my new friend, Tammy Cho. She's going to be joining us today in the conversation. Tammy and I met, I guess, about a few weeks ago in email chat. And I'm so glad that we connected because the more I got to know about her, the more I knew we had in common. So I want to give a little recap from Tammy's bio to everybody to know, and you'll understand the connection as well, too. Tammy Cho is a former patient care leader turned international bestselling author and self-love and energy leadership mentor, specializing in face and body analysis, human design, and NLP. She helps impact-driven entrepreneurs and leaders overcome imposter syndrome, fall in love with their authentic selves so they can break through plateaus to scale, lead, and thrive for their next level of purpose-driven impact. Tell me that isn't perfect. We're so happy to have you, Tammy.
Yes,
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it's just so nice to meet you guys, like Emily and Lisa. And yeah, I would agree this alignment we had was, pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wish we had recorded our meet that we had. We did a little Zoom chat and it was almost like completing each other's sentences. Tammy has her own podcast. And what is it, your podcast?
It's called Authentic Leaders Rising.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love speaking on there and I love to invite you guys on there. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, it sounds
we're
like a good
definitely
sister one. Yeah.
We're definitely very aligned on a lot of things. We've done episodes on imposter syndrome. We talk about authenticity all the time. And then obviously, as you and I kind of discovered and uncovered in our pre-chat, we have some very, I would stretch to say eerily similar background, as even deeper than just both being nurses. So I'm excited to dig into that.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. So Tammy, tell us, as you know, our podcast listeners are change makers, thought leaders, and entrepreneurs. And what do you see as the most, is it still an inability or a challenge in connecting with our authenticity that holds us back the most? Or is that the underlying part of lack mentality, or what is it that's holding people back today?
I think if we've all been on the journey a while, I think when we get real with ourselves, we know that we're the ones holding ourselves back. And we all hear that, 90 something percent of our thoughts are from the subconscious. Right. And to me, right, to be really authentic with ourselves has a lot to doing with being so in touch and connected and intimate with ourselves. And tapping into the body wisdom, because the body is the subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
It is a place that tells us the truth and the body doesn't lie. And maybe because of my, nursing background, it matters, right? And I think a lot of times we see the body as something to get us from A to B and that we need to take care of it. And I think it's very different when we tap into the wisdom of it,
Mm-hmm. So what role or roles, I'm sure it is, does your high acuity, high tech clinical background play in where you are today? Like how, I know exactly what kind of patients you were taking care of. What the audience missed is that we both have a background in neuro ICU. So neurosurgery, neurotrauma, et cetera, intensive care. in my opinion, generally kind of the most high tech unit you'll find in most hospitals, right? With the most the sickest patients, frankly, and you know, when people are severely neurologically insulted, I mean, you're seeing and exposed to a lot of things that most people will never encounter in their lifetime. So you got to believe that that plays a role somehow in, you know, getting to this place of more focusing on entrepreneurship and self-care and identity, and even you know, facial reading and all these sorts of things that you're doing. So is there a pathway that you can lay out that describes, or maybe it was like a singular sort of epiphany type experience that led you from point A to where you are now?
Yeah, I love to share that. I've been a nurse for, over 20 years. And I know in my bio, it's like I said former, but I'm in a space where I'm actually transitioning part-time back. And it's very beautiful to see how far I've come full circle. Because when I was working as a nurse at the bedside, I worked in educator roles and as a supervisor of the hospital, the biggest hospital here in Vancouver. And I ended up, one day working as a nurse and burning out. I ended up having heart palpitations and chest pain.
Wow.
I remember having this taste of fear in my mouth, and I was struggling to breathe. And I essentially was wheeled off to emergency in front of everyone at work. So there was no turning back. And, Emily, leading up to that point, I knew that I wasn't doing well. I even got a doctor's note to say I got to take time off, but I couldn't let go of all the things I, said I would do for everyone around me. And intellectually, I knew what to do, but emotionally, I couldn't let go. And although the burnout really slowed me down, I really didn't, my turning point, as you call it, right, really wasn't until I had my first daughter. She was 6 months old, and she was lying there on one of those baby Einstein mats, and she intentionally hit one of those dangling toys, right? And I saw it. And honestly, there was like, if it wasn't for this community nurse that was visiting me right at that moment, where she saw how I reacted to my own child, the fact that I said that, oh yeah, well, that kids do that. That's nothing. Like I was so disconnected to my own child. And if it wasn't for that angel in that moment pointing out for me what I couldn't see, how disconnected I was, and how much I was living in that box, right? Got so good at caring for everyone, high achieving, all these kind of things, over giving, very nurturing as a nurse, all those kind of things. And
disconnecting as a survival mechanism to some degree.
Yeah. And in that moment, I was turning into my mom who physically abandoned me at 20 days old. But I was like, I was emotionally abandoning my daughter. So the cycle was repeating, And yeah, I think authenticity, like we cannot really be our true selves if we're disconnected from ourselves. And I think in the world that we live today, there are so many of us that we're ticking off the list and all these things. And we forget about ourselves. Yeah. At all these different levels. And often it shows up at the physical level, and then there's the deeper joy, fulfillment, and happiness that I think we neglect. And it's really our soul, and our body is the manifestation of our soul and our purpose. When we're not actually living our purpose, that's when chronic diseases happen, because our body is telling ourselves we're out of alignment. And so this is a very beautiful unraveling for me, because, I obviously started, I'm not going to turn into my mother. And I started, doing so much personal development. Obviously, I did the therapy and the counseling and all of that, right? But I was investing in all these courses. I did NLP way back when I was trying to master the mind. And obviously, you guys know the answer isn't there. And so, I did the whole, energy practitioners, because, wow, these intuitives could sense what I'm feeling before I'm feeling it. And And it really opened me up because I struggled to to trust people, after you've been hurt from the people you love. Oftentimes that breaks down trust. And so for myself, that really supported me. And I learned I was an empath, and I learned bioenergy healing, Reiki, shamanism, various type of healings. And I would exchange healings with people 2 to 4 times a week. But if I was true with myself, when I stopped doing all that, I still felt like, the emptiness, the anxiety, the depression. I still wasn't happy. And so, I pulled into my life 4 years of emotional and spiritual healing, and came across psychosomatic therapy, which is essentially, to keep things simple, study the body, mind, heart, soul together, as is expressed through our physical features in our body. And I remember having my body red and my face red, and I saw that a part of me was yearning for this love and connection. Like literally, there was like a bump on my body here that was reaching out of my chest. And yet another part of my body was pushing it away. And so now as I work with more clients, I see this pattern again and again. And the sense of they're wanting more in their life, but a part of them is actually, they don't know how to receive it. The skill of receiving. And so I see this pattern again and again. And so, and for me, it's being able to take care of myself, not in boxes, like the mind, body, soul, all separate, but bringing it together in wholeness, not at a mental level, but actually being in my body. Because there are a lot of people that attack, they're intuitive, but they're actually not in their body and not necessarily really feeling the deeper emotions because it's painful. Like, who wants to feel those painful emotions? Like, humans, we have a tendency to move towards pleasure and joy and away from pain. Yet, really, if we're standing in our authentic leadership, it has a lot to doing with developing comfort with being with our pains. And that's true leadership in many ways, as funny as it sounds.
Oh, I love that. I've never heard anyone say it like that. I was thinking when you were talking, thank you so much. I'll let you get back to your story because I'm like riveted, but I was thinking about the experience of pain and stresses. It's right now, there seems to be like an intense sensitivity. There's been a lot of talk about the softening of humans to where they're ultra sensitive to everything, when conflict is something that is meant to shape us and to grow us. Like Emily works in strength training. We're chasing the easy, the less conflict path.
Yeah, and it really is, our human tendency. And we also know, based on the adverse childhood studies, the ACE studies, trauma's passed on from generation to generation, right? So it's everyone has it, and so it also, it's not until we have this calling to do something more, or when we hit divorce, or we hit things like, a car accident, for the universe to really awaken us from the dream that, if we're not addressing these deeper traumas, big T, small T, whatever, is that it's keeping us from really being with ourselves and to know ourselves at a deeper level. And so it keeps us at a certain vibration. So we can meditate all we like, but there is definitely a time and place for healing. And there's a time and place to also move from the healing. So it is a balance, because I see people that heal forever and they don't take action as a form of self-sabotage, right? And there's people that take action but never slow down to address the trauma. So really is this balance of feminine and masculine energy, and bringing that into balance is what is required to have the energy to, as a nurse, to give and care for the world. I mean, that's not just nursing, I guess. That's, being a mother. That's being in business, or business is our baby, And the whole act of receiving, that's the challenge I see people having. And a big part of my journey, right? And, I was in a relationship with a man, who's my husband now, of course, and he just loved me to bits, but I kept on creating arguments. I kept on making things wrong because I was so emotionally addicted to struggle, and that, deep down, I didn't feel like I deserved happiness. Like, because my upbringing was like, pain and suffering and all these kind of things. So yeah, I feel like authenticity is the path that's really required, where, self-love is a strategy of life that deepens us in a way that, to live life that you could really fall in love with yourself and not do things out of protection and pain. Like, I don't know. It's like, to me, that's fulfillment.
I love how you put that too, that self-love is a strategy. And there's another podcast that I love. It's a fitness-oriented podcast called Mind Pump, but they talk about all kinds of other things. And something that Sal, one of the hosts on there, brings up all the time. He says, self-love is not this like warm, fuzzy feeling. Self-love is an action, or as I would think of it, like a series of actions. You know what I mean? And so in the context of fitness, and exercise and nutrition, it's like, okay, I may not feel very good right now. I may not like what I see when I look in the mirror, however that kind of manifests in different people, but loving myself in that moment would look like making the choices to put nourishing foods in my body, and to refrain from putting objectively junky stuff in my body. Self-love, even though I may not feel great, would look like moving my body in some way. Maybe it's just going out and taking a walk, or whatever it is at that moment. But it's not this like, oh, I love myself and I just feel that warm, fuzzy feeling all the time.
Yeah, I think it's because it's true, like, because there's so many different ways we could look at self-love. And I think that there's also something called the self-care trap. Because what I see, because I work with a lot of high achievers, and they really care about making this difference, and they go, I know I got to take care of myself, and then they go to the gym, they eat right, whatever that is, so that they could keep going on the treadmill. But the energy underneath it, excuse me, the state of being underneath it is still this energy of, I need to do that so I feel good enough, or I need to get that done. It's from this energy of scarcity, or there's not enough. And so this is the energy leadership I speak to, is that it's really not the doing. It's how we're being as we're doing it. What is our underlying intention?
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's the conscious intention, there's a subconscious intention. And so that's why, we really, that self-intimacy piece is the opposite of disconnection, right? It's like literally a deep connection with ourselves, to know when we're actually true to ourselves at every given moment. And so, yeah, like, I think when we approach self-love, self-care, and we put these fancy words on it, it's like, when you're doing it, do you actually feel happy? Is it a Band-Aid happy, or do I feel really happy?
Yeah, no, that's super important. And they talk about this all the time too, is that you can't punish yourself into feeling good about yourself. You don't take these actions because it's like, oh, I'm so gross and I need to, or I ate this whole pizza or whatever it is, and I need to, work it off, or punish myself, or I need to restrict my eating because I've been bad, or however that kind of goes. So the intention behind it absolutely makes the difference as to whether the action is a loving one or a, masochistic one.
Yeah, Emily, it's so true. And this is the piece about being connected with our body, because the mind can't feel. The mind will have judgments, look for validation, whatever that is, right? Like, criticize ourselves so that we will do it make it happen faster, better, smarter, whatever that is. Yeah. And there's this deeper piece here of really, dropping into our body to really feel like what's happening. And I think when I get people to do this, it's it's so much things come up that take us out of the moment. Like it could be, going into the body. Like I had a client once, right? She's telling me all her gratitudes and wins, but I could tell like she's telling me so that she will be validated versus she's actually letting it in. And so I actually had to like hold space for her to drop in. And it's just crazy how much the mind comes up and takes her out of it, or, it's like so uncomfortable to stay with it. And I think it's a good measurement, if you will, to know like presence. We all talk about slowing down and taking care of ourselves, but there's a special moment of just literally slowing down, doing nothing with yourself, and literally just being with ourselves and seeing like all the discomfort that actually comes up in our body, like, the shoulder pain or chest pain or chest tightness, anxiety, whatever that is, right? These sensations just flood, and then it feels so uncomfortable that we unconsciously keep on moving forward. And so, the next evolution, I believe, of power comes from our degree of presence and the depth of our loving for ourselves, and our ability to hold love for ourselves and presence, and holding that will be the measurement of how we hold our clients and our patients and our leadership in life. And the next evolution is our energy essence that actually shift. And we don't even have to, it's not the doing. It's in our being of being in our resonance that shifts our patients and clients. I've witnessed this again and again. It's really, it's hard to really understand up here sometimes, but it's just, we're working way too hard because we feel like we need to be doing something. And that's what I hear. I've heard this a few times. It took me a while to receive it before I could build my confidence to say this out loud. But now I've built up my experience in it. Like I as I work on myself and I shift my family, I can see how my energy is affecting them in deeper and deeper ways. And so anyway, that to me shows me a lot in what I do with clients. It's really my depth of love that helps them. For example, someone struggling with their diabetes and blood sugars for a long time, very high A1Cs. They know all the information, the mind stuff, So it's this, and they literally said to me, it's actually how much you care about me that actually made me realize I got to care about myself more. And that's how they shift in this specialist, like who's this nurse that helps you do this? And so, and that's not the only patient that said that to me. Another one's like, you care so much about me. I got to care more about myself. Like, it's like this. I was blessed that a patient actually was able to vocalize that to me. Right. But that's our energy resonance, So anyway, just wanted to share that because it's like this concept that I think is not as spoken about. And once you learn to embody that, you also learn to slow down even more and realize you no longer need to push so hard. I mean, I'm going through another evolution of that right now, so maybe that's why it's so present for me. But yeah.
Yeah, well, I think especially for those of us, which I think all three of us and a good amount of our listeners fall into this category, but those of us who are high achievers or, however you want to look at that, I think that's a constant, I don't know if I want to call it a struggle, but it's a constant thing that is ever evolving. We peel back the layers of the onion for life. Like, okay, we've kind of resolved and evolved and moved forward from this layer. And now there's a whole other layer. And experiences like that, I think for me, I noticed this has happened many times where when somebody will give you feedback like that, like, oh, you care so much about me, I should really care about myself more, then that flips the mirror around for you too. And be like, yeah, so should I, right? Do you find that kind of helps you take it to the next level whenever somebody gives you such profound feedback of something that you've done for them.
Yeah, I
Does
mean,
that make sense?
yeah, I mean, and tell me if I'm not answering this in line to what you're saying, but I definitely, when I first got that feedback, actually, I didn't really even let it in because a part of me is like, oh
Mhm,
yeah, that I should be doing that, like, and then
mhm,
as I'm seeing the pattern, people saying this to me again and again, and I'm reflecting back, I realize I'm being who I am in that I'm being my authentic, true self. Like, my galactic signature is essentially the innocent one. I'm very much a reflector back to people. Um, yeah, and so it does work both ways. And what I like to say is that our experience in our reality is a direct reflection of our inner world. So, what is happening in your outer world, if you want a bit of a mirror? Um, and I think that's the power of, face analysis, because it it's like it's written right here. We all have that blueprint. We all have that roadmap. Um, and so just to highlight, right, the left side of our face is this private world. The left side, you can put your hand on your left side. This is your, inner world, more sensitive parts of you. And then the right side is the public face and what we
mm,
show the world. And although when we look in the mirror, we're not like, we're looking at ourselves in this way. What I do is that I essentially do mirror splits of the left and right side, and to see how much in alignment are we with our inner world versus our outer world. And this is a big part of imposter, feeling like imposter because we're not allowed to be ourselves because we feel like we should live up to something else. And I think this is our true authenticity and power when we really create this alignment in our inner outer world, and how much we're actually allowing ourselves to be fully expressed.
So I'm really unfamiliar with the facial analysis. Can we talk a little bit more about? I mean, I know you started to, but are you doing this all sort of in person? Are you touching? Are you using is there a digital component?
Yeah, and then this is the gift from COVID because I used to do it in person, and I realized I could do online. And most of my clients are actually all over the world, and I get them to send me pictures, and essentially, I could always zoom in and look at lines more than I could see on Zoom actually. So take actual pictures with even lighting, and so that's I create the experience. Highlights our strengths, our challenges, internal conflicts, emotional patternings, and subconscious blocks and things like that. So it highlights a lot of information, and I essentially walk someone through the journey of their outer and inner world. Um, and I look at the physical features, like the distance between your eyes, the size of your lips, the shape of your face, like how you maybe wear your hair, how where your ears are situated on your face relative to your nose, like, so it's not just looking at one thing, it's looking at a combination of things. And of course, I always ask my clients to set an intention. What is it that you want to uncover here? um, and it's under the branch of psychosomatic therapy. And um, what it is essentially, really like our face and body essentially is a reflection of our thoughts and our emotional history. So, like down to our feet, is really our youngest years. And so we build from that to move up into the body to see, like, we hold more, tissue in some areas because we may need more protection in that area, like because of our emotional history. Um, why someone might, for example, walk a certain way tells me if they're on purpose and if they're on direction with their purpose. And, when we're walking through life, and our feet our positioning's off, right, that starts to affect our knees, very much our confidence and identity. And so when we're off, direction with our purpose and how we walk, it also affects other parts of our body. So yes, it's affecting us at a physical level, but at the soul and emotional level, it's speaking to something. So it's quite interesting. And I think every nurse should learn psychosomatic therapy because it's really cool to be able to look at someone and know, okay, this patient's going to need more time to process because they have a bigger distance between their eyebrows and their eyes. So I'm going to need to go navigate this way. There's a lot of supportive elements to this. However, with the work I do with people, yes, it's the face analysis, but it's also the somatic healing, tapping into the subconscious side of things. And then there's the alignment and embodiment. So it's not just reading the face because, and I don't really like to just read the face. I like to, my intention is to help someone drop from their mind into the heart to actually see what is, their inner world's trying to say, for example, and what is really happening, because otherwise it's just like any quiz we do online. It's like, oh, this means this. It means I'm a, I don't know, open-hearted person. And, it just becomes more intellectual as just something we learn in a normal quiz. So yeah, that's what I like to bring to it.
And can you then, from these analyses, give a person actionable items that they can do to, work on some of these things that have been discovered, and then potentially even upon reevaluating, change some of the features?
Yeah. I mean, this is not a visual podcast, but I actually have before and after pictures. So what I do is I do a face analysis right at the beginning of working with someone in a package, and then I do a follow-up one. And just to highlight, right, like counselors and therapists that have taken psychosomatic therapy, the face analysis is equivalent to 4 to 6 sessions because it's literally right here and written here. And so that's why I start with, because it gives us a lot of information on what is your body telling me you need and where do we go about it first. So that's the blueprint we start with. So it does provide information. I also bring in something, numerology as it pertains to your personality and soul numbers as it pertains to your physical body. So if someone has more blemishes, redness, darkness in some parts of your face, or unevenness, it often speaks to those places that, lessons you're meant to learn to achieve your soul purpose. So it's really cool like that. So I like to bring the body, mind, heart, soul together in these sessions. And so from that, depending on the intention of what, client wants to work on, that's what, we spend our investor time and energy in. And it often doesn't make sense because it's not logical. It's like we're going into the body, and often, my clients are like, why are we going here? And then we're going here. It takes time to unravel. The mind has to understand. We don't need to understand, right? So I know you guys understand that, but yeah. So so there are some pieces we work on there. I also get someone to send in, for example, how they walk, and then we shift how we walk because that affects our beingness. And so we do all these pieces, and at the end, I actually do the post-face analysis. And I just recently did one where someone's eyes were unevenly placed. Her irises were not centered. Size of the eyes was different. And after we worked together, and this was, her soul and heart center. And so we did a lot of focus on this area as it pertained to her soul purpose. And her eyes literally evened out. Like if you took a string and you measured it, you could see that it shifted. The iris is centered a lot more. It wasn't fully centered, but it was noticeably different. And the size of the eyes changed. Like before, because her eye placement was different, she was doing so much for other people that she wasn't giving her the same space on the inside world. So that those kind of pieces just shifted, and it was really amazing to see. And, she was blown away. And, her nose changed, and our nose represents our self-identity, who we are, our confidence. And you guys might have heard, right? It's very important to shift the identity of who we are. Otherwise, we're playing the old patterns and old consciousness, right? And so, it's really powerful because we all invest in ourselves, and we don't usually see physical changes, or maybe we're not looking, whatever that is, right? But it's really powerful to be able to see the shifts. in our physical body.
Yeah.
In a way that it's through self-love. Like, it's not like we're trying to fix you and things like that. It's like, use self-love as a strategy, and then learn how to lead our, energy. There's addressing the emotions and then leading our energy, which, to me, energy, emotions are energy in or out of emotion. So, yeah. So it's really self-leadership with leading our energy on many fronts.
That's
So
super
someone
cool. And I
doing-
just had a funny thought that said I bet Denzel Washington would knock it out of the park. He's supposed to have like the most
very
symmetrical face.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
haven't heard that one, but yeah.
Yeah.
So someone going through a lot of transitions like divorce or new motherhood or parenting, or new in their entrepreneur journey or shifting in some way, would their face potentially be changing more frequently?
Yeah, and I always get someone to write down what was happening in your life when you did this face analysis, right? Because not everyone is ready or wanting to go deeper. Sometimes it's just they want to see a snapshot. So I believe our face is changing. It's just a matter of, what is actually happening with those changes, and is it going in the right direction? Sometimes I'll have clients bring in their childhood photos to see what really shifted from you being a child to now, and is it conscious? Is it what you want? Is it who you are? And is this the person you want to be and show up as? So that's really cool too, to see that. Because sometimes we forget who we really are. Yeah.
Cool. So in your expertise in today's world that we live in with all the body modifications, there's facelifts and lip injections and all of the things.
BBL.
Yeah, everything that we can do to modify and change ourselves.
Analysis.
What role does that play in analysis, or is that a negative or a positive?
Well, to me, whether anyone's done any work, and I do ask people this, right? But I always when we go on a session, I ask them, like, what parts of your face do you like? And which parts of your face do you not like? And this is often the subconscious block that is highlighted and how we relate to ourselves. Even though we see it as a physical feature, it's actually saying what's underneath. So definitely, sometimes it really depends on the energy behind why they're doing it. If it's really like, I really don't like this about myself, so I want to fix it. That's different from someone. It's like, I feel like I want to take care of myself. It really, it's really bothering me in this way. And, this is really loving for myself to do this. That's a different energy. I think more people are more in the line if they're trying to fix themselves. And so that's the energy pattern, right? So we'd be working with specifically what are they judging on their face, because that's actually more of what they need to express often. And so, and there are things we could do to our face, like sometimes like our eyebrows speak to our expression, but also how much of the hair is left at the end. Sometimes could speak to if someone could follow through on things. So I have, told clients that they could, fill in their brows, for example, with the intention of like, this is what I want to create in my life. I want to follow through. I'm willing to let go of the fear. Right. And, one of my clients, we did her post face analysis, and her eyebrows actually filled out like without drawing it in.
Wow.
So that was really cool too, Yeah. So it's like, it's different for everybody. It depends where you are in your journey, where you are in your transition. I'm literally just bringing you shift the relationship with yourself wherever you are on that journey. Right. And hopefully, help you fall in love with yourself. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's really depends the openness and willingness at that time on the journey, what their intentions are. And I really truly believe like there's the analysis, but it's like that staying connected with our body piece that is crucial, because it's telling us so much information that I just feel like this is something that we should be taught in schools, but yeah, this is the evolution of humanity, in many ways, I feel. feel like it's nursing 2.0.
I like
in
that.
ways, Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like nursing 2.0 is going inward versus or returning to a knowing.
Yeah. And I would say even like, connecting to the body differently, connecting to the symptoms that, if you're tired or you have a headache, you have back pain, like all this is speaking to ways you can support yourself differently, things you're avoiding within yourself, and I think when we see the body as these precious symptoms, and we're not going to try to like take some Tylenol, or, some other medication or supplement even, right? So I think that when we are not repressing, we're not just trying to recover and get better, we're actually going through a mindset of uncovering what's there. Because even though it's not, linear in the sense of, oh, okay, well, if I take care of this aspect of myself, then I could change this directly. What I've noticed is that I focus on helping someone shift their deservingness level. So oftentimes what they actually ask that they want to achieve, oftentimes it starts to shift every area of their life versus one. And sometimes what they think they wanted, they realize is not what they wanted because it was someone they didn't realize they were living someone else's life. Or that they just literally didn't know they could ask for something else and that is okay. So yeah, it's really beautiful, the unfolding. And I know in business they say, what results do you get? And I was like, it looks different for everybody. But anyway, so yeah, all those pieces.
So I can definitely relate to the aspect of your journey where it's kind of like you are called to a modality and you learn it. You're called to another modality and you learn it. And you call to another modality and you learn it. And that may be, kind of a lifetime path for both of us. But how do you envision this all coming together? What is the major takeaway that you want people to get from all this?
I believe it's all about coming back to a deeper, authentic part of ourselves and a deeper self intimacy. Because when we address the body symptom and connect it to our mindset and take care of our emotions and are connected with our soul, and we're addressing this together, we're staying healthy on all these different levels. We're moving in alignment where we're allowed to be, happy, because if we're in alignment, it means that everything is aligned in your mind, heart, and will. Moving forward in life, that your energy resonance is affecting the world in more ways than you can even witness. And you can be happy just doing what you love. And I think this is the next piece of human design, where looking at your energy blueprints, shifting your body, being more of who you are, and, according to your birth date and the time of birth specifically, and bringing these pieces of deepening who you are and expressing that more so. It's really powerful to bring this all together for someone. So it's really a process where you get to fully be yourself, doing what you love, creating the impact, and be a attractor to pull in, abundance in a very naturally aligned way. So to me, this is really the truth we're all being guided to in many ways. But if we're not setting that as our North Star and we're addressing ourselves in silo, I think that's where it kind of could take us off route. So it is coming back to a deeper, authentic connection to ourselves. And through that, our authentic confidence, if you will, our worthiness, it's just, I've never felt so happy in my life now as I've had, I mean, I'm sure I said that over here, but there's always more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I just, for me, is to be in life in this way where we prioritize our joy and inner fulfillment. And then we naturally, like, the next evolution is that alignment is the new productivity. Because when you're aligned, there's nothing blocking you because you know who you are and you're just moving with ease.
Mm. Yeah,
you're
it's very
trusting.
empowering. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how many of your guests talk about this. I might be a broken record at this point, but like to me, like how I've learned to bridge this all together, it just makes so much sense. It's what we've always been guided to. Um, Sometimes we need to hear at different angles, perhaps.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think a lot of my clients leave with a lot more, self-love, peace, fulfillment, abundance and ease in the way they actually want it.
Yeah.
Like truly want it.
Yeah,
So
I like that you've brought up a few times self intimacy, getting to know more than just love, but intimately knowing yourself, not the labels that people give you or the expectations that you have in whatever role that it is, but beyond being able to accept yourself. I don't know if you talk a lot or if you read a lot on David Hawkins' scale of consciousness, but moving beyond acceptance and neutrality and being able to access love for all the parts of ourselves, even the parts that are struggling.
yes, and it's so interesting because my human design speaks to exactly the power versus force. Yeah, it speaks to, yeah, I'm actually meant to help people bring more intimacy and connection and caring to the world. It's actually written in my human design, and balancing the masculine and feminine, amongst all these other things. But I will say that what I'm speaking about today, like if you need to know at an intellectual level, David Hawkins is definitely, the leader in that. And what I'm speaking about is like you're developing power. And before it used to be, and how I used to experience it, is that I just wanted to love myself, and it was very feminine.
Mhm.
However, we can't be just loving ourselves. We need to have the power to take action. But what people don't necessarily connect to is that action it doesn't come without loving ourselves. Like it's one and of the same. And through that, like true power is born. You know, it's one of those concepts that, it's hard to explain. And in fact, I remember having this experience, and then I read Power versus Force. Like, that's just what's happening. Like, that's how I was able to put it into words better after I read that. 'Cause before that, I just like kept on getting this intuition. I like, how do I word this? What does that mean? So yeah. So that's how it's come to be in my world, anyways.
I'm so glad we're recording this because you've said so many just brilliant sound bites, I think, that are really connecting a lot of dots. In Feng Shui, we have some practitioners that practice face reading from a Feng Shui standpoint. And I didn't get deep into those studies. I just know surface level Feng Shui from reading other people's work. But is there just an interrelationships? I know we're talking a lot about self-love and empowerment. And maybe this applies to self too, but are there any like red flags, for lack of a better word, or maybe just a connect to pop culture, but are there signs in our faces? Like I was reading an article yesterday or today, it was like a Psychology Today article, and it described eyes being like dead eyes or disconnected from a smile. Are there, in your experience, any like red flags or indicators that we would look to within our face or our bodies to help us do this deeper work?
Yeah. And I will say that sometimes, like what we'll see in the eyes, like if your pupils are actually not sitting on the bottom of your eyelid when you're looking forward, it shows a level of disconnection from your body. And so that's one that you could see potentially in people, and I have seen it in my client drop back in their body, and it does change on the face. Um, and if you have your iris separate from your top and bottom, right? It's just very much like in a shock phase where you're not only disconnected, but potentially might do more harmful things to humanity because there's a high level of disconnection. But I think for the people that we're, speaking to in your audience, it's probably not going to show up, like maybe a little bit of the people being higher. Yeah, and I will say that like whatever it is, it can change and shift, and whatever that we're seeing on our face and body, like it's like when we see that we could shift our body, it's like this renewed inner empowerment to realize we could shift our world even more. Because when we shift the relationship with our body, we shift our creation as well.
Mhm.
And so this is really powerful. And I have like a 5-part video series where I walk you to actually do your own face split, so you can see where there's places of your strength and leadership, but where you are on your authentic leadership journey within yourself.
Oh, wow. And that's in your website or the links that you gave us?
Yeah, it's in the links that I gave you. And so, yeah, that's something that, the audience
Really,
could
yeah.
definitely tap into that. Yeah.
Really good information. Although I think it would be really cool for you to be the one to do the assessment, knowing all that you know. And is your human
Yeah.
design, by human design, you mentioned a few times that, are you a reflector? Is that your energy?
I'm actually the exact opposite of reflector. So I'm not sure, does your audience know what human design is?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I am an emotional manifesting generator. And so why I say that I'm the direct opposite of reflector is that, reflectors are 1% of the population and they have all their centers open. Whereas for me, I have all my centers defined.
Oh, okay.
So I have a consistent flow of energy into all my centers, which was very confusing. And I had to figure that all this energy is coming in, all these emotions, and I'm emotional. So, and I have like 3 different waveforms. Because some of us, we are who are emotionals, we gotta understand that we're not, feeling emotion is not always like you gotta fix and heal it. It's actually part of our internal rhythm. And through deepening into presence with that emotion, births new ideas into the world. So it's just, yeah, that's a sidebar, but I'm just talking about this is who I represent in my expression to the world. And in 2027, with the evolution of moving from, logical systems and structures into more self empowerment and self intimacy, my life purpose is perfectly aligned to support that bridging. And so this is what I'm meant to do in the world. And yeah, it looks a lot different than I thought. And I feel so blessed to feel fully awakened to serve people like this. Yeah, it's super exciting for me.
Yeah, it comes across really very well. That vitality that you have, and describing where your origin story came from, that moment where you felt so disconnected, and even recognizing your daughter and playing with a toy or learning a new skill. So that's, I think, a good demonstration for people to know the difference between living on purpose and in body and aligned and connected versus the moments when we're disconnected. Not to say, right, like even we're going to be disconnected several times in life.
Yeah, yeah. And we, moment to moment, we're in different layers of connection or disconnection, right? And if we're on a journey to raise global consciousness, we must be raising our consciousness. It happens through us, not through helping other people.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and it's like the degree of awareness you have moment to moment is a big determinant of that, is what I've learned.
What are your go-to habits or techniques that you do to return to your strongest, most 100% self?
Oh, when I feel like number one has to be the connection to my body. So what I mean is like when I'm moving throughout my day, what am I connected to what I'm actually feeling in my body? Because the days that I'm not, then I'll go home and I'll feel actually tightness and pain or whatever in my body. So the number one thing for me is that I'm actually connected in my body. A lot of that has to doing with breathing. Like very much, you aim to breathe deeply during meditation. Like life is meditation. Like, how deeply am I breathing throughout the day? So that to me, also how I teach people to shift how they walk. Every step I walk and I massage my feet that particular way actually stimulates energy in my body. And so that supports the breathing, the alignment in that, and the connection to the body. Like that brings me back to presence. And then in that moment, I constantly have intuitive flow come through me. So yeah, that's how the quickest way I return. It's usually not one thing, but they all come together, the strategies, because I'm bridging the body, mind, heart, soul. And I'm very aligned with my purpose and soul. So that's like a big driver. Even in my deepest pain, like that light was there, even though it was like a speck. So now that I'm awakened, that's like always there. Like this, whatever I do needs to be here. So anyway, so that's it's like body, mind, heart, soul. Like make sure you're bringing that together in the way that resonates for you. That's my way, and depending on your energy blueprint and human design, that can look very different for people, right? So yeah, so it's really self-interesting.
Yeah.
Going back to your authentic energy self.
Beautiful. I love it so much. Is there anything, if you could leave anything for our listeners today to encourage them to enhance their journeys, if they're interested in learning more, what would you suggest?
Yeah, I think that sometimes we listen to podcasts and other people outside of ourselves. I think there's a tendency to like, oh, okay, I need to do that, or like, oh yeah, I used to do that, I'm not doing that, or whatever, right? We think about the past or the future. And I just invite the audience, like, whatever if you're listening to this episode, whatever's going on for you, to really just breathe and go in the moment and ask yourself, tune into the sensations, ask yourself those sensations, what it wants you to know, because it doesn't matter what everyone outside of you says. Like, what is your inner knowing saying to yourself, and what has she or he been getting your attention, and accept whatever comes up. Like, don't make it wrong, don't make it bad. Just like love yourself in the moment. Like, just love and accept yourself in the moment and hold space for yourself. Like, that's what matters the most over and above whatever people say outside of you. So just remember, you deserve deep love and acceptance in every moment. And you could create that like right now. And you matter enough to create that space for yourself. That's truth right there. So
That's beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, in a world that seeks so much external validation, I
yeah,
think that's powerful to share.
thank you.
Thank you. Emily, how about you? Anything lingering in your mind? Burning questions?
No, we are the creators of our own truth. Period.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
yeah.
That. Well, we're certainly happy and thrilled to have you on side of the Conscious Collaborators inside of our closed and private Facebook group. We welcome you to come in there and share, and as people are listening, to come in and ask questions. And we hope that you'll find some good connections and collaboration with inside that group. And we invite our listeners to come ask Tammy questions for yourself, because I think we just scratched the surface. Today's conversation was just, to me, I wish we recorded our first conversation too. There's just so many layers. As you speak about alignment, holistic health and wellness and awareness, I think it's just very important. I'm happy that we were able to have those collaborative discussions. And there's, just really seems like there's so many conscious people seeking to have this depth of discussion, going beyond what's offered on the surface. So I'm really happy that we crossed paths, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Well, what do you say, guys? We'll see you inside of the collective.
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thank you for liking and sharing and subscribing. We wouldn't be here without you. And We look forward to receiving your questions. You can reach out to us on Facebook, Instagram, or our email, and we'll talk to you in 5.
Talk to you in 5. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank y'all so much for listening to our podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends so they can join our circle of collaboration on this journey. You can find us on Instagram at Conscious Collaboration Podcast, on Spotify, iTunes, and Audible, to name a few. Please join us next time for another deep dive into how you can live life in more alignment, mind, body, and business. Send us your questions and comments in our DMs or email us at consciouscollaborationpodcast@gmail.com. See you in 5 minutes.